Hi guys, welcome to today's video. So today we will solve part 2 of the set matrix 0 question. So earlier where we left, so we have solved this question with a space of m plus n. So now in this video we are going to solve with a constant space. So why we are solving with the constant space? Because it is said in the follow-up, like can you devise a constant space solution? So we will think about it. So here I came up with one solution. So as part of that solution, what we are going to do, so why we need first we need to think like why we needed these two extra spaces. So we needed for maintaining the rows and the columns, like which column we need to mark as 0 and which row we need to mark as 0. So what if we take help of the matrix, existing matrix itself, to save these values? So if we can do that, then we'll be able to use a constant space and we will not need these extra spaces, right? So as part of this, what we are going to do, so if you take this example, so this is the same example. So what we are going to do, so whenever we encounter any 0, so we need to save the rows and the columns. This is our need, right? So what we are going to do, so we are going to mark, suppose we want to save the rows, then what we will do, we will row number and the 0th call this index of the matrix, we will save our row, okay, and 0 and the column number, we will save our column. Now the second part of this question is how we are going to save this, right? So we are going to, suppose we encounter here this is the row number as 1 and 1, right? The row number is 1 and the column number is 1 over here. So what we are going to do, so with r, so here r is 1 and we are going to use column as 0, right? So at this index we will save this as 0, okay? Now our index is here is 0 and the column is 1 over here, because since this is 1 comma 1, right? So we are going to mark 0 and 1, so which is this column, as 0, okay? So now we got this information, right? So this row and this column we need to make as 0. Now, so this is one, in one iteration we will do that. So in the second iteration we will start and we will search if our row 0 is equal to 0. So if this is the case, we know this row number has to be 0. So what we will do, we will mark this all as 0, okay? Now we will search in the second iteration that if our 0, this column is equal to 0 or not, okay? So 0 1 is 0, so column number 1 has to be 0, right? So we will mark this as 0 0, okay? So so over here one special case we need to handle, so when our indexes is 0 0, so if this is 0 0, so we are not saving any particular information over here. So if it is 0 0, we will just save 0 index and 0 column. So even though if we will save this information, so what will happen if we, in the third iteration, if we make this as 0, so all the metrics will become 0 once we go through the loop, okay? Because we are going to check with the condition either this or this, okay? So if you will have this two loops for rows and columns, so this will always holds true and this will make the whole matrix 0. So we need to handle this special case separately, okay? So let's start coding. So this is where we left previously. So what changes we are going to make? First change, we will get rid of this rows and columns, okay? So instead of that we will have two boolean values, I'll mark previously as false. So this variable we need to mark if our first row and first column is 0. Okay, so we'll just use this by default false. Okay, so now what changes we need? So we need to get rid of wherever we are using our previous sets. Okay, we'll get rid of this. So now here we are iterating through the matrix. Okay, and okay, now if we encounter our matrix as 0, then first we will check if our I is 0. So we will check if our I is 0, which means if my first index, your first row is 0. Okay, so we'll just check for 0, then we will mark our row equal to true. Okay, similarly we will check if our first column is 0, we'll mark our column equal to true. So this means our first row of and first columns are 0. Okay, now we need to mark matrix of how we are going to save our row with I and 0. So we'll mark it as 0, and for column we are going to save in 0 and the column number as 0. So this is in the first iteration, we just mark, we save this value, so which column and which row will have the 0. Now we will reiterate through the matrix. So in the second iteration we will start from 1 because we have already saved the data for our 0th column and 0th row. So we'll start from 1. Now we will check if our matrix of 0 and the column is j is equal to 0, or matrix of I column 0 is equal to 0. So if we have saved this information, then we will mark our matrix indexes as 0. So this is the place, if we would have not saved this value and we would have started from 0, this will always hold true and this will make the whole matrix 0. You can try it by yourself. So this will always be the case, and it will make the whole matrix 0. So that's why we need to handle this special case. Okay, now we will check if our first row is 0. We'll add first this condition, then we'll iterate, then we'll make all the columns as 0. So if our row is 0, then we need to make all the columns, because this row we need to iterate through the column number. Okay, that's why we're iterating through j. Okay, what we will do, we will make matrix of 0 and j as 0. Okay, similarly for if our first column is 0, okay, then we'll iterate through the rows, because if this column is 0, then we need to iterate through the row number, right? So we need to start it from 0 and we need to mark the matrix of I and 0 as 0. So now we have done these changes in place and we are not using any more space than these two. Let's run our sample test cases. So it passed. Okay, now suppose if we did not make these changes and we start, if we have not used these changes and we start from 0 from here, okay, and we do not use this part, so if we run it, it makes the whole matrix as 0. Okay, so let's revert our changes. And retest. So it worked. Let's submit it. Yeah, so it worked. Hope you understood this question. See you in the next. Thank you.